Now it's recording. I'd like to call this special meeting of the BUSU Board of Directors to order. The time now is 5:35 p.m. Okay, we have on there. The next is territorial recognition. We acknowledge that Brock University is located on the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe people, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon, One Bomb agreement. Next on the agenda, we have the approval of the agenda. So approval of the tonight's special meeting. So be it resolved that the board approves the agenda for the special meeting on July 7th, 2026. Do we have a mover? It can be a mover. Do we have a seconder? I see Sonita. Okay. Is there any opposition or opposed? Please. Okay. There's no opposition, so I think we should be good to move. Okay. And then minutes approval, we have two sets of the minutes approval from meeting one on June 9th and then from the special meeting on June 18th. And I hope everybody has the chance to review both of them. Be it resolved that the board approves the minutes from meeting one and the June 18th special meeting. Can I have a mover, please? It can be a mover. Can we have a seconder? I can second that. Any oppositions? If you oppose, please raise your hand.
If there's no opposition, I will record it.
Yeah. Okay, motion carried. Okay, thank you, Kaylee. Okay, now I'd like to open the floor and chair, I'd like to open the floor to Bradley and for an open discussion. And yeah, you can go ahead with the discussion. Do we, Kaylee, one question before we move on. Is this in camera or out of camera?
I don't believe it needs to be in camera. If there's a discussion kind of after Brad speaks and you know it goes in a certain direction, the board can choose to move in camera, but I don't think that needs to happen now.
Then yeah, I think we're good. Yeah, Bradley, the floor is open for you.
Okay, thank you very much. Kaylee, just a quick check. I had sent a PowerPoint to you just before the start of the meeting. I don't know if you want to share your screen or if you prefer that I do.
Yeah, I can do that if that's easier for you. It's up to you. I can pull it up.
While that's coming onto screen, I do want to thank everyone for meeting with me today. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak directly to the board. I want to There we go. Thank you.
Is that okay? Okay, perfect.
Everyone can see that all right? Okay. I want to begin by reaffirming that, of course, Brock University values its longstanding relationship with BUSU. As many will have heard me say before, BUSU plays a very important role in representing undergraduate students and delivering programs and services, advocacy, and leadership opportunities that contribute greatly to the Brock student experience. My goal in requesting a meeting with this group today and to continue a discussion about governance is to convey that Brock's ongoing partnership with BUSU and the university's expectations regarding the stewardship and the organizational responsibilities that are entrusted to BUSU and to its board. At the outset, I want to be very clear about what this meeting is and what it is not. From my view, this meeting is not intended to debate individual motions of your board, to revisit specific board decisions, to focus on personalities, or to prejudge any outcomes of investigations that are currently underway. Rather, my hope for this meeting is that it's an opportunity to discuss broader governance considerations and concerns, to clarify the university's expectations, and to identify ways to strengthen confidence in BUSU's governance practices moving forward. Haley, would you mind going to the next slide? Thank you. I want to propose this agenda as a roadmap for our conversation this evening. We could begin by setting the purpose and scope of today's discussion. From there, I'm going to provide some context for why the university requested a governance review and how that review relates to other processes that are currently underway. We can then take time to discuss Brock's core governance expectations, including our fiduciary expectations, fiduciary duties of the board, conflict of interest management, governance conduct, and the board staff relationship. I also want to explain why these matters are of interest to Brock, particularly in relation to the student fee stewardship, accountability, compliance, and confidence in BUSU as a key institutional partner here at the university. And finally, I'd like to leave some time for discussion, questions, and next steps. I want to welcome questions and reflections, but I do want to try and keep us focused on governance expectations and constructive ways to strengthen practices going forward. Haley, would you mind going to the next slide? So again, the purpose of today's discussion is to clarify the university's expectations and support a constructive path forward. There are really 5 key objectives from my point of view. First, Brock wants to reinforce its expectations regarding governance, fiduciary duty, conflict of interest management, and responsible stewardship. Second, it's important to distinguish between the governance review that's currently being discussed and separate third-party investigations that are currently underway. These are related in the sense that they arise from some overlapping concerns, but they're distinct processes with different purposes. Third, I want to raise that Brock remains committed to participating openly and thoughtfully and constructively in the governance review process and the governance review working group. As I said in that group's first meeting a week or so ago, Brock is not approaching that work with a predetermined view of what BUSU's governance model should be. And fourth, Brock needs confidence in BUSU's governance in order to sustain a strong, productive partnership. This is especially important given BUSU's responsibilities and the resources that it stewards. And of course, the role that BUSU plays in supporting the undergraduate student experience here at the university. And finally, I want to have this discussion be focused on strengthening governance, not on assigning blame. The goal is to become stronger and more effective, and to ensure that our governance structures and practices are capable of supporting the organization over time. So again, a focus on governance principles, on organizational effectiveness, and on increasing the university's and the student body's confidence in BUSU's stewardship of its resources. If I could ask you to go to the next slide, please, Kevin. So perhaps to set some context, I know there are a number of members of the board who are returning to the board from 25-26. I also recognize that there are some members of the board here today who are also participating in the governance review committee working group. As we think about the different processes that are currently underway, I want to be clear that the university's concerns are not limited to any one board, any single board cycle, or a particular group of directors. The allegations and the reason why the university requested a governance review in 2025, fall of 2025, was that over time a number of significant governance concerns had been brought to our attention and we had observed in different forums. These included allegations related to board conduct, allegations of harassment and discrimination, concerns regarding compliance with BUSU bylaws and governance processes, and questions as to whether board of directors were consistently meeting their fiduciary obligations to act in the best interests of the organization. Now, those concerns are no small concerns. They are serious, and they warranted the university's belief that an independent governance review was required. And so the purpose of that review, and I think we could perhaps refer to that as the Risser and Hughes review, was not to investigate individual allegations. Instead, it was intended to assess whether BUSU's governance framework, policies, practices, and culture were adequately supporting effective governance. Now, the review certainly identifies significant opportunities to strengthen governance structures, improve role clarity, enhance accountability, and better support governance practices. And it's in that context that Brock remains focused on improving governance and increasing confidence. Thank you, Kaylee. Now, I want to be sure that we're not kind of overlapping kind of concurrent issues. It's important to distinguish between the governance review, the Risser and Hughes review, and the third-party investigations that are currently underway. As I mentioned before, the governance review was conducted by Risser and Hughes, and that review was not an investigative process. It wasn't designed to determine specific allegations, whether they were founded or not. The review looked at governance structures and governance practices, things like policies, role clarity, board practices, accountability mechanisms, and the overall governance framework that the Students' Union employs. Many on the call this evening will know my history at Brock, and certainly I'm very proud of my time as president of the Students' Union. I also recognize that the organization that I helped to lead in 1999-2000 is significantly different than the organization that BUSU is now, and the organization has grown tremendously, supports a wider range of student interests, and those are all really critical to overall student experience at Brock, and of course to student success. So we're deeply committed to making sure that BUSU can continue to fulfill those responsibilities. And really, it's that kind of long-term focus and continuing strengthening that was the focus of the review that Risser and Hughes did. The third-party investigations, by contrast, are intended to assess specific matters through appropriate processes. Brock is not prejudging the outcomes of those investigations, and we believe those investigations should proceed. Now, we recognize as well that some of those matters involve individuals who are no longer with the Students' Union, no longer involved in board governance, and other matters may involve individuals who continue to hold leadership roles within the organization. Those are the circumstances of the moment, but to our interests don't preclude these investigations from following through to their completion. We're not here today to determine whether or not a particular allegation that's being explored in those investigations is true or false. Those determinations belong in the appropriate investigative processes. And once those investigations are completed, the university will certainly be interested in understanding the findings or the outcomes. Where concerns are substantiated, we would also be interested in understanding what actions BOSU intends to take to address the concerns and to restore and maintain confidence in its governance practices. So we're not here today to prejudge the outcome of those third-party investigations. And as I noted, the university expects that those investigations will continue to their completion. Kaylee, could you go to the next slide, please? So as far as our approach to the governance review working group, and I fully respect that that group has its second meeting on Thursday of this week. As I noted before, we intend to, the university intends to participate openly and thoughtfully and constructively in those processes. We're not approaching that process with a predetermined view of what the right governance model for BOSU is. We're not advocating for one specific structure over another. To our view, that is the purpose of the working group. That's the intent of reviewing the recommendations and collectively BOSU determining what its best path forward is. Really, our key interest as the university is to ensure that whatever framework is adopted, that it's clear, that it's effective, that it's sustainable, that it's properly supported, and that it's capable of addressing governance challenges. By clear, I mean that the roles and responsibilities and decision-making processes are well understood. By effective, I mean that the governance model should be supportive and benefit sound decision-making, accountability, and the organization's ability to serve students. And by sustainable, I mean that the model should be enduring, adaptable, and able to work beyond one particular board cycle or one group of individuals. I think properly supported is also a very key interest of the university, and by that we mean that board members and staff should have the guidance, training, policies, and structures they need to fulfill their roles. And by capable of addressing governance challenges, I mean that the model should respond meaningfully to the issues that have been identified, including role clarity, board conduct, conflict of interest management, fiduciary responsibilities, and operational and governance boundaries. Again, thinking about the long-term view and the growth and success of BOSU over time, sound governance practices are what helps to smooth the bumps in the road, and that create the context and framework by which thoughtful and student-centered discussion can continue. So again, the university's goal is to continue to contribute to that discussion while remaining transparent about the concerns and of course continue to be supportive from a university perspective in addressing those concerns. Before we go off of this slide, I'll perhaps give one instance that perhaps provides an example of where the current governance activity and perhaps the current governance framework are not supporting either short-term or long-term growth of BOSU. And I note today being the 7th of July, and I believe Aaliyah is on the call as the only sitting executive at this point. There's just all sorts of challenges that stem from moving, well into a term, from typically May 1 to July 7th without a full executive in place. Now, some of that perhaps is circumstantial. Some of that may be, as a result of activity from the board or prioritization exercises or whatever have you. I don't presume to know the full reasoning for that. But what I can certainly say from the university's perspective is that this is a very unusual circumstance. Never before have we been this far into the cycle and not had an executive to work closely with. While we're certainly confident that staff functions are continuing and certainly expect the board to fulfill its responsibilities, there's a glaring gap in the current situation. Reflecting back again on my time as a student leader with BUSU, it was February when I knew that I'd be taking on the role, and by this point in July, not only was I confident, but I think I was well on the path to achieving my mandate and the platform that I had put forward. I think this is a very challenging circumstance, and we have to come to some clarity as to how we find ourselves in this moment at this time. Can I ask if you could go to the next slide, please, Kaylee? So to be clear, there are a set of expectations that the university would expect the BUSU board to uphold. I understand that you have received some training on this at the onset of your terms, but I want to highlight really 4 core governance expectations from Brock's perspective. The first is fiduciary duty. Board members are expected to act in the best interests of BUSU as an organization. This means exercising appropriate duty of care, demonstrating stewardship and accountability, using sound judgment, and making decisions based on the long-term interests of the organization and the students you serve. This requires directors to look beyond individual interests, constituencies, relationships, or disagreements, and focused on what is best for the organization as a whole. The second expectation that the university holds for BUSU is of effective conflict of interest management. Strong governance depends not only on avoiding actual conflicts of interest, but also on appropriately identifying, disclosing, documenting, and managing perceived conflicts. Brock expects full disclosure of conflict of interest when they arise, recusal where appropriate, clear documentation of decisions, respect for governance processes, and transparent and impartial decision-making. In stating that, the objective is not to question any individual's motives. The objective is to maintain confidence in governance processes and organizational integrity. The third expectation relates to the board-staff relationship. The governance review identified role clarity and board-staff relationship as important areas requiring continued attention. Effective governance requires a balance between oversight and operational responsibility. This is often, a space of learning for new boards. The board must be able to govern effectively while allowing staff to carry out their responsibilities without unnecessary interference. Likewise, staff must remain accountable through appropriate governance structures. Again, I return to the point I made at the beginning of my time. These are not comments about a particular board cycle, about a particular group of directors, or about a particular a particular year. These are themes and observations that from the university's view, we've observed over a number of cycles and several years. And we've reached a point where seeing direct and effective steps taken to address these concerns so that they don't continue cycle after cycle, we're at a critical phase. The fourth expectation is around governance conduct. So again, the university expects the governance practices that BUSU employs are respectful, they're transparent, they're policy driven, and they're consistent with not-for-profit governance standards. Now, as I said, I know that the board has received training in these areas. I recognize that some board members are stepping into this role for the first time. I implore the board to take these matters seriously. If there are aspects of any of these, fiduciary responsibility, conflict of interest, board-staff relationship, or governance conduct, that you are unsure about or unclear about, it's incumbent upon you to ask questions and to learn, and to keep, for everyone to keep these in mind as you go about your work as directors. I've mentioned a couple of times this evening that the university is a willing and able partner of Busu's, that we value this relationship, that we hold dear the role that Busu plays in supporting students at Brock. Again, we have we have a shared interest in that, and so I also, state here that if there are resources or supports that the university can provide, training, other things along those lines that will help the board to kind of develop in these areas, we are more than happy to support and assist, and so again, I make that point clear. Kaylee, can I ask you to go to the next slide? So as I noted, there are shared interests that we have. Of course, student success is something that we are all wholly focused on. The strength of the university is very much dependent on the success of our students. Busu is an important contributor to that success. And so I returned to the question of why Busu governance matters to the university, and really it's a central issue of confidence. The university needs to have confidence that Busu is stewarding its fees that it receives from undergraduate students responsibly, that we recognize that Brock has a responsibility to students as the institution. It's the institution that collects student fees and then remits significant student fees and works in partnership with Busu to deliver important services and supports. So there's a responsibility that each of you have as directors to ensure that those fees are being used appropriately. We, of course, need to ensure that governance processes are being followed. I've spoken to that this evening in different ways. Really, it's coming back to the question of understanding your roles, understanding the expectations that you have upon you as you serve in these roles, and making sure that you are conscious of the impacts of the decisions that you make on the expectations and outcomes that you're accountable for. So again, I think the university needs to ensure that we have confidence in the way that your student fees are being stewarded, that your governance processes are being followed, that conflict of interests are being managed appropriately, and that board members are acting in the best interests of Busu as a whole. Whether Busu or the GSA as examples, the university must also continue to maintain confidence that organizations entrusted with significant student resources are operating in accordance with applicable laws, their governing documents, and accepted standards of governance. And really, this is not an abstract issue. Confidence in Busu's governance is central to the strength of the university's partnership with Busu. I know at the beginning of your terms and beginning of the cycle, part of the training that you received focused on the university's contractual agreement with Busu, the omnibus agreement. Again, this is the framework for major shared initiatives. And the day-to-day success of both organizations. It's also raising these issues at this time is also critical in the context of the broader significant projects that we have underway, including the Student Center project, where, again, stewardship, sound decision-making, sound governance practices, and fiduciary responsibilities are central to that project's success as well. Regardless, strong governance will help ensure that BUSU can represent students effectively, steward resources responsibly, and participate as a credible and trusted institutional partner. Kaylee, can I ask you to go to the next slide? So again, I want to close by returning to the importance of partnership. Relationship with BUSU, we remain committed to a productive partnership with BUSU. There are very few universities and student governments that can reflect on the lengthy history of positive relationships and positive partnership that Brock and BUSU can, stretching back, many decades at this point. That's important, and it takes effort to maintain. So we remain committed to a strong and productive partnership with BUSU. We also remain committed to the governance review and ensuring that working group can complete its work. We, as I've said, intend to participate openly, thoughtfully, and constructively in that process. I want to emphasize again that today's discussion is not about determining whether specific allegations are true or false, or kind of relitigating past decisions or actions of the board. In some cases, issues that are currently being investigated are being done through third parties who have kind of work underway, and it's our belief that those investigations should continue to completion. Our interest is ensuring that BUSU has a governance framework that supports accountability, transparency, and role clarity, responsible stewardship, and student-centered decision-making. With those points and thoughts shared, I certainly welcome any questions or reflections and discussion that the board might have. My hope is to keep this conversation focused on governance principles, on student interests, and on constructive next steps. As I said at the very beginning, I'm grateful for the time that you've allowed for me this evening and the opportunity to speak to the board directly and follow up to the letter that I sent to you, the board, about a week ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Bradley. So I would like to share some concerns and share some things that are confidential. So I would like to suggest a motion to move in camera, if that's possible.
Just want to clarify, do you have questions for Brad as well? Like we
Yes.
should, okay,
Yes.
just let me pull up the agenda. Second. Okay, Abdul Rahman, you can go ahead with the motion.
Okay, be it resolved that a motion to move in camera at 6:09 p.m. Can we have a mover? There can be a mover. Can we have a second? Is there any positions? Okay, I'm just gonna lower my hand.
Okay, let me just pause the recording.
Okay.
go ahead.
Okay, since we've completed the business of this special meeting, could I have a motion to adjourn, please? Be it resolved, motion to adjourn the meeting at 6:41 p.m. Do we have a mover? Homer? Is there a seconder?
We actually, we just need a mover to adjourn, so we're
Okay,
all good.
just a mover? Okay.
Yeah.
Is there
We
any
don't need a-
oppositions?
You don't need a vote either. You just,
Okay.
just the mover
Okay.
to adjourn.
Sounds good. Thank you all for your time, and thank you, Brady, for being here and listening for us. And you all have a good night. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You as well.